An alien mother begged to work. Then she knocked on a human's door. The sun was setting behind the hills when John, a quiet farmer on the edge of Earth's outer colony, walked back toward his small house. The air smelled of dry soil and wheat. His fields half-harvested, his arms sore from a long day of work. He wiped sweat from his brow and was about to lock the main gate when he heard it, a soft knock. Tap, tap, tap. It wasn't loud, almost like someone was afraid to knock too hard. John paused. Few people ever came this far. His farm was distant from town. He slowly opened the wooden gate and stepped outside. There, standing in the dust, was a strange figure, a young alien girl. She had pale gray skin with glowing blue marks along her neck, her eyes wide and faintly golden in the fading light. She wore torn, dirty cloth over her shoulders. But what truly caught John's eye were the two small alien children clinging to her legs. They looked thinner than scarecrows, their cheeks hollow, their eyes tired and scared. The girl's voice shook when she spoke. "Please don't be afraid, I'm not here to steal." John didn't speak. She took a deep breath. "I'll work. Any job. Farming, cleaning, digging, anything. Just please feed my children." Her hands were trembling. Her knees looked like they might give out at any moment. John looked at her, then at the children. One of them looked barely able to stand. He stepped aside and opened the gate wider. "Come in." Inside the house, he lit a fire and placed an old kettle on the stove. The alien children sat close to each other, shaking. The girl sat near the door, ready to run if she had to. He served them warm soup. Nothing fancy, just broth and soft vegetables. The children grabbed the bowls with both hands like they'd never seen food before. They ate fast, tears running down their faces. John placed a second bowl in front of the alien girl. She didn't touch it. "You're not hungry?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. She lowered her eyes. "I'll eat after I finish the work." "There is no work," John said. "Eat." Still she didn't move. John sighed, stood, and handed her a spoon. "Eat while it's hot." She hesitated, then finally took it. "Thank you," she whispered. Later, John gave them old blankets and laid them near the fire. He pointed to a corner of the room. "You can rest there. You'll be safe." The children were already curled up asleep, but the alien girl didn't lie down. She sat up, legs folded, eyes open, watching, guarding. John noticed her vigilance. "You're not going to sleep?" She shook her head. "I can't. Not yet." "You think I'll hurt them?" She didn't answer. He didn't push. He just walked to the other side of the room, placed his old hat on the hook, and sat in his wooden chair. "I'm not like the ones who made you afraid," he said softly. She looked at him, her lips trembling. "That's what they all say." John nodded, slowly. "Then I won't say it again, I'll just show you." Hours passed. John dozed off in his chair. The alien girl remained still, but when she saw the children sleeping peacefully, when she felt the fire's warmth, when she realized the man across the room had not moved from his chair, she finally closed her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she slept. Morning light spilled through the small window. John stood outside feeding the chickens, his thoughts still on the girl and her children inside. She had come from nowhere, desperate, quiet, proud. He'd seen that look before in people who had nothing left but still tried to keep their dignity. When he stepped back into the house, he saw her standing near the stove. She had cleaned the floor, folded the blankets, washed the bowls they had used, and now she stood silently waiting. "I told you to rest," he said. She shook her head. "I said I would work." "You weren't lying," John muttered. She stepped aside and pointed to the corner where the children still slept, curled under the blanket. "I didn't wake them. They were cold and tired." John nodded. He pulled out flour, oil, and dried herbs from a small cupboard. "You ever made flatbread?" The alien girl hesitated. "No, but I can learn." "Good. Let's make breakfast." She watched every movement he made, how he kneaded the dough, shaped it, turned it over a warm pan until it was golden brown. "Now you try," he said, handing her some dough. Her fingers were unsure. She pressed too hard at first, then too soft, but after 3 tries she made something close enough to pass. He didn't laugh or mock her. He just nodded. Not bad. When the smell filled the cabin, the 2 alien children woke up slowly. Their noses twitched, their eyes widened. The girl handed them warm pieces of bread wrapped in cloth. They grabbed the food but looked at her as if waiting for permission. She smiled softly and nodded. They ate quickly but not desperately like before. This time they chewed slowly, carefully. It was the first real meal they'd had in weeks. John placed his hand on the table. "You got a name?" The alien girl looked down. After a moment, she said, "My people called me Sina, but it's hard for humans to say." John shrugged. "Then I'll try." She looked up, surprised. "I'm not afraid of your name, and I won't change it just to make myself comfortable." Sina looked at him differently now, not as a threat, but maybe, just maybe, as someone real. After breakfast, she asked, "What can I do today?" John pointed outside. "You can help me clean the tool shed." Without another word, she followed him out. She worked with her sleeves rolled up, quiet and focused. Her hands were fast, her back strong. She didn't complain even when splinters cut her fingers or dust filled her lungs. John watched her closely, not because he didn't trust her, but because he saw something familiar in her, a fire that had refused to go out. Days passed peacefully. The routine became almost like a real family. Sina cooked, cleaned, helped in the fields. The children played and helped gather eggs. John smiled more than he had in years, but peace doesn't last long in small towns, not when people start talking. It began when John went into the nearby village for supplies. The moment he stepped into the general store, the room grew quiet. 2 men stood near the counter whispering. "You've got someone on your land," one said. John didn't respond. "A woman," the other added. "Not human." "Is there a problem?" John asked calmly. "She doesn't belong here," the first man snapped. "How long before she steals something, brings others?" John's jaw tightened. He picked up his supplies and left without explanation. That night, Sina saw his face when he returned. "What happened?" "Nothing. I didn't expect." She was silent, then said, "They know about me." He nodded. "You should send me away." John looked at her sharply. "Why?" "Because I don't want to make your life harder." "You didn't make my life harder," he said. "You made it better." That evening, as the children slept, Sina stood at the door looking out at the stars. John sat on the porch beside her. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. He shrugged. "Maybe I'm just tired of seeing good people broken." She looked at him. Really looked. "I don't have anything to offer but work." John turned to her. "You offered your word. You kept it. That's more than most." She looked at the cabin behind her, then at the stars, then at him. For the first time since arriving, she smiled. Just a little, but it was real. Night came early. Thick clouds rolled over the sky, covering the stars. The wind whispered through the fields, and inside the farmhouse, tension had been building. In Sina all day. She had worked harder than usual, cleaning, cooking, even fixing a broken fence board. But John could see something was troubling her. "You don't rest," John said quietly. "Even when I tell you to." Sina didn't turn from the window. "I can't afford rest." "Why not? You and the kids are safe here." She was silent, then finally turned around. Her eyes looked tired, heavy. "Do you want to know the truth?" John nodded slowly. "Only if you want to tell it." Sina sat down across from him, her hands trembling slightly. "I was born on a trade moon. Not much light, no grass, just machines and buyers. My parents sold scrap. When I was 15, they sold me." John's brow furrowed, but he didn't interrupt. "I worked in kitchens, factories, later in places where no one asked for your name, just your body." Her voice didn't shake. She had told this to herself so many times it had become a cold, practiced tale. I escaped twice, got caught both times. The third time I ran far enough that they stopped looking. I found the children in a cage, starving, left behind. I took them. You don't even know them? John asked gently. Sina shook her head. No, but they looked like I did, so I didn't ask questions, I just took them. You're not their mother, but you became one. Sina's throat moved. I didn't want them to feel the kind of silence I did when I was alone, the kind that makes you feel like you'll vanish if no one speaks your name. The next morning brought ominous skies. Thick clouds rolled across the hills, swallowing the sun. The wind came first, strong, sharp, bending the trees and pushing dust into the air. That's not just rain, John muttered, eyes narrowed at the horizon. Sina came up beside him, holding one child on her hip, the other clinging to her leg. Storm, he nodded. Big one. The kind that floods fields and rips roofs. He looked at his crops, dozens of rows ready to be harvested, his whole season's work. If this storm hit hard, everything would be lost. I need to dig water channels, divert it before it soaks everything, he said, picking up his shovel. You'll never finish in time, Sina said. I have to try. The wind grew louder, the first drops fell cold and fast. John dug frantically, but the earth was already turning to mud. Then Sina appeared beside him, grabbing another shovel. What are you doing? He shouted over the storm. I said I would work, she shouted back. Together they dug deep lines across the edges of the field. Water started running away from the roots instead of drowning them. She moved like fire, fast, steady, without pause. The rain soaked her hair. Mud clung to her legs. Her arms bled where stones cut her skin, but she didn't stop. By the time the worst of the storm passed, they stood covered in mud, shivering and breathless. But the field had survived. The next morning the village arrived, not with rocks or anger, but with curiosity. People had seen them working through the storm. A few had watched from a distance as the alien girl threw herself into the mud to protect a field that wasn't even hers. Old Merrick, the miller, stepped forward. You lost less than the rest of us. John nodded. Because she worked through the storm. He didn't say her name, he didn't need to. They knew. A woman with sharp eyes whispered, She saved this farm. John nodded again. While others watched, Sina stayed inside, peeking through the curtain. She didn't trust the change. Not yet. Later, a soft knock came at the door. Sina opened it to find a young boy holding a bundle, his mother standing behind him. These are dry clothes, the woman said. We saw what you did, thank you. Sina didn't speak, just took the clothes with shaking hands. Another woman brought soup. An old man left tools on the porch. The same people who once whispered were now trying, slowly, to understand. That night, Sina sat by the fire, her legs wrapped in bandages, her hands still sore. John handed her a cup of tea. You didn't have to do it, he said. She looked at him, her voice soft. I did. This land gave me food, gave my children peace. It gave me you. He looked down at his cup, not speaking. It was the first place that didn't ask me to be less, so I gave it everything I had. Outside, the field stood tall in the moonlight, and for the first time the village saw her not as a burden but as one of their own. The rain had passed, the sky was blue again, and the wind carried the scent of wet earth and growing crops. John's field, once feared to be lost, stood proudly green, strong, and alive. It was the only one in the area that survived the storm, not because of luck, but because of her. As days passed, more villagers came. Merrick brought flour as a gift, admitting he had been wrong. Others brought shoes for the children, seeds, cloth for curtains. Even the man who had once thrown a rock through their window came silently, leaving. A carved wooden toy on the porch. A little alien girl holding a flower. That evening, sitting on the porch steps watching the sky turn orange, John sat beside Sina. You were right, she said. People do notice. Maybe not at first, but they remember kindness. And strength, John added. You showed them both. The children came running up with wildflowers. For you, Mama, the younger one said. Sina's breath caught. She took the flowers, smiling so wide it almost hurt. "Thank you," she whispered. As they ran off laughing, John looked at her. "They're healing too." She nodded. "Because of here. Because of you. You're part of this now, Sina. This farm, this life. It's not just mine anymore." She turned to him. "It feels like the first time something fits." He smiled gently. "Then let's keep building it." The sun was warm. The earth smelled fresh and birds sang from the trees. The children laughed as they picked wild berries near the fence. Sina stood in the field, her hands on her hips, eyes on the wheat swaying in the wind. A light breeze ran through her silver hair. This place no longer felt borrowed. It felt like home. John walked up behind her, wiping sweat from his brow. "The soil's holding. We'll have a good harvest." She nodded. "We." He smiled. "That's right. We." She turned to him. "You say it like I've always belonged." "You have," he replied. "The land just took a little time to agree." She laughed softly, real, clear, and unafraid. Later that evening, after the children were fed and sleeping, John asked her to come sit on the porch. The sky was painted orange and pink, stars just beginning to appear. He held something in his hand, small and wrapped in cloth. "What's that?" Sina asked as she sat beside him. He placed it in her hand gently. She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a folded paper, a deed. Her eyes widened. "This is land," she said, shocked. John nodded. "I had it split. One section is now yours. Official. Legal." Her hands shook. "Why would you do this?" He didn't look away. "Because this land grew stronger with you on it. Because my life grew brighter with you in it. Because your children made this house feel alive again. Because no one should live waiting to be kicked out," he added softly. "Because I want you to stay. Not because you have nowhere to go, but because you choose to." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I came to your gate with nothing, not even hope. You had 2 children, and your word," he said. "That's everything." She stared at the deed, still not believing it. "I used to give everything I had just to survive one more day." "You're not surviving now," John said. "You're living, and you deserve to live with something that's yours." Her voice cracked. "No one's ever given me anything without asking for something in return." "I don't want payment," he said. "I want partnership." The next morning at market day, people greeted her by name. The children played with others. Women asked for her help and advice. She smiled, confident, grounded. Later, as they walked back to the farm, John looked over at her. "I have one more offer." She raised an eyebrow. "More land?" He chuckled. "No, just a simple question." He stopped and faced her. "I know this isn't the life you dreamed of, but would you share it with me? Not as a worker, not as a guest, but as family, as my wife." Her mouth parted, her eyes softened. "You still want me, after all my past?" "I don't want the past," said. "I want you, the woman who saved my crops, who raised children without a name, who brought love back into this place." Sina looked at him, then at the children playing in the grass, then at the land, hers now too. Softly she said, "Yes." That evening, under the stars, Sina held her children close and whispered, "We came here asking for food. We gave work. But we found everything we never knew we deserved." When she lay down beside the man who once opened a gate to her, she finally closed her eyes in peace. Not as a guest, not a servant, not a shadow, but as a wife, as a mother, as a woman with a name and a home.